6TR, the bright side of Staffordshire.
It is time to talk to a radio legend in these parts. We've got Lee Finan on the line right now. How are you diddling, Lee?
I don't know how's your diddling. I haven't heard that in a long time. I'm really well, Terry. How are you?
I'm good, thanks, mate. Yeah, of course, that was your catchphrase back in the day. One of which there's quite a few. But yeah, everyone used to say, how are you diddling? Because, of course, in the 80s and early 90s, you were one of the voices of Stoke-on-Trent up at Signal Radio.
Indeed. I had a brilliant time there. I joined Signal in July 1983, and it was just opening in September, as you know, September the 5th, 1983. So I was just a rookie. I was 20 years old. I'd been eager since a teenager to get into radio, and to be there at the beginning, at the start of a brand new radio station was fascinating.
Yeah. So how did you find Signal? What was happening there?
Well, at the time, I was a nightclub DJ, and like many people who'll be listening now thinking, oh, I'd love to get into radio, I sent tape after tape after tape, because I'd worked for a hospital radio station, and you get all these letters back saying, oh, thanks ever so much, you're not bad, but sorry, we got no vacancies. And then one radio station, Signal, said, okay, well, look, we haven't really got a full-time position, but you could be what we call a technical operator. So I was pressing all the buttons for the news program and organising scripts and bits of audio, but they also gave me a children's program on Sunday morning, Junior Jukebox, which I'm sure you know, with Nigel the Gnome and all that, and that's for me just how it seemed to take off, and I absolutely loved my time there.
Yeah, like you said, a lot of people who I've spoke to started off really young, wanting to get into radio. People are radio heads rather than wanting to be on TV, I find. I know that sometimes comes as part of it, but it's that interest in radio.
For me, it always was. I remember my nan buying me a little, I mean, I'm showing my age now, cassette recorder, I think it was about my 9th birthday, and I immediately put the cassette in, connected the microphone, put the batteries in, and went round all the family interviewing them instinctively. And my nan, I remember her saying, here is going to be one of those geezers on the wireless. And that was it for me. I thought, wow, what a great idea. And that's what I always wanted to do. And I think it's got to be, Terry, in your blood. You've got to live and breathe it and really just want to do it. Not because you think, oh, there's an interesting course. Oh, I might try that, see how it goes. That doesn't do it, I think. You've got to absolutely live it. And if you do, and you've got the dreams and aspirations, then I think nothing will stop you, and just go ahead and do it.
Yeah, and another thing that I found from speaking to people is preparation's important. You can't just go on air and think you can wing 3 hours of radio. You've got to have the preparation there. People think because they've got a bit of a personality, think they can get away with that, but it's not true, is it?
No, it's nice to be spontaneous.
Yes.
To me, that's always important. But no, I'll give you an idea. I used to do the late night show, 10 p.m. till 1 a.m. And I'd probably be in the building at 3 p.m. that afternoon doing 7 hours prep for a 3-hour show. And Junior Jukebox, which was a once a week 2-hour show, I am not exaggerating when I'd say I'd probably do 20 hours work. Wow. For that show every single week, just recording all the bits for Nigel the Gnome and all the jokes and all the letters, Terry, because we didn't have social media or the internet. So we'd get a couple of hundred letters a week, and many of them would, deserve a reply for one reason or another. So, a lot of work behind the scenes. So for me, if it sounded spontaneous, you have to create that spontaneity, so to speak.
Yeah, and I think DJs on the radio became superstars from that point onwards, because I can remember you used to have the Signal radio cards, which you used to sign and send in the post. Like I say, this is way before social media.
And I think it's very true in certainly the 80s, and to a lesser extent the 90s, yes, because we didn't have all the TV channels that we have now. We didn't have the internet, we didn't have social media, we didn't have Netflix, etc.
No.
So therefore we had 3 TV channels, maybe 4 TV channels, and a few radio station, so people related to their radio presenters, and you did become, say, a minor celebrity. I think is the way to put it.
Definitely.
I mean, to be honest, I remember, queuing up in Tesco's or in the bank, and almost every time someone would be asking for my autograph. It was weird. I mean, it's not like that, for most people in radio now, but I think then people did put you on a pedestal a bit.
Definitely, yeah. And of course, let's talk about the two shows you mentioned. On the Sunday with Nigel the Gnome, that spawned a single as well. We're going to play that as part of this interview.
You haven't.
Of course
got
I
that.
have, yeah.
No,
Yes.
no.
Yeah. I remember it like it's just actually. I've got both the singles. You've moved too slow as well somewhere.
Oh my goodness!
And weren't they produced by Nigel Stoney or
Nigel Stoney
Yeah.
and Sarah? The two. I don't know where they are now, but they were just both local from the Staffordshire area. And what great songwriters and musicians they are!
Yeah. Well, Nigel Stoney is still going strong. Yeah, he's still out there producing.
Good.
Yeah, and there was another song that was part of one of your jingles, which was "I Want to Be With You." I don't know if that was available on single, but was that? Who was the band? Is it Northern Sky or something like that?
Oh, Northern
Try and find
Sky,
me notes
yes.
here.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
Yes. Well, that was Nigel involved with that. You see, that was Nigel and Sarah that were Northern Sky. So that was their own music as well as doing the producing. You see.
Yeah. So was that how the single came about? Because you were making jingles and songs with them.
It sort of is, but it actually came about because there was a charity song done, and I can't remember. Nobody can get it easy, right? I've forgotten the name of it now, but they asked me would I sing a couple of lines on the charity single, which I did, and that's when I met Nigel, and then one thing led to another, and he said, "Oh, we should do a record together." I'm doing it. Well, The Move Too Slow was actually a play that he'd done the music for this musical, and just asked me would I actually just record the single, and as you know, the rest was history. It was #1 in the local charts, and then Nigel the Gnome came. I think about a year later. We said, "Oh, let's do a song with Nigel," and yeah, they did a brilliant job.
Yeah, and. ID 104, which was one of the names of the late night show. It was pretty much a nightclub on the radio. It had mixes, so you get like a few songs together and do a mix every night. And it had that vibe about it. Because, like you said, you were also a club DJ, and you did club nights as well. I think you did.
I did.
Hanley and Raphael's.
Exactly.
And
Hanley Duck and Regimes and you name it. Longton, virtually every club. Maxims I remember doing, and we even did, as you know, the show every couple of months. We did it live from a nightclub as well, and to do a live broadcast in the 80s from a club, that actually took some work and some preparation to do. But how amazing to be live on the radio and live in a nightclub with the crowds cheering is just brilliant. Is that
what you wanted to bring to the airwaves at a night time? That sort of vibe of a club type thing?
Yeah, sort of yes and no. Moreover, it was my boss who came up with the concept before I did.
Yeah.
And when he mentioned it, this is a guy called John. I just loved the idea, and what they wanted was literally a non-stop rhythmic music program, and the idea was the music technically was to be non-stop, like a nightclub. And then any adverts, because you know, if people listen to the radio, you're probably finding you're getting 9, 10, 11 minutes of adverts in each hour. With that, we had 2 adverts of 20 seconds, and that's the only interruptions we would ever give to the music. But of course, the show developed, and then, as you know, I used to take loads of dedications and have a few competitions and get people on the phone. So the music was the same, but we just had a bit more interaction between the songs rather than just non-stop music. But it was so different for, 1984 that started. So different from anything else on the radio.
Yeah, and like the intro, I can remember it like it's yesterday. Now I've mentioned the name of the show, the sung intro that you used to have.
That was a local girl, Simone, who she actually had a hit in the club charts at the time with the proper version of "It's Too Late, Baby, Now It's Too Late," and then clearly we just said, "Simone, come here, right, here's some words for you," and suddenly it was ID 104 really has got style. We just changed the lyrics. It was brilliant.
Can you remember? We've mentioned the two main shows you did on Signal. Can you remember the very first song you spun on the airwaves?
Yes and no. I can't remember the first, because my very first show was the Junior Jukebox show, and that was September 1983, and ID 104 was December 1984. I can remember the first song that we played on ID 104, and that was Shalimar and A Night to Remember, and that was the theme. That certainly the lyrics of the song said it all. This is what's to come. We're going to have a night to remember, and we're making history. But I can't remember my first song on Junior Jukebox. Isn't that terrible?
I suppose because the excitement of it all at the time. I reckon you wouldn't remember, but I just thought I'd ask that question, and a lot of people have struggled with it. They can sort of remember when they've done a certain show, when they started, all of a sudden, because it's new, they came up with the ideas. But when you're thrown on the air, I suppose you didn't even choose the songs originally, did you?
Terry, I really cannot remember. I remember being so nervous, and I had a little theme tune, which was a disco version of The Wizard of Oz. And so there would be, say, 30 seconds or so of the music before I was due to start speaking. And I was so nervous, I switched my microphone on, and then I switched it straight off again, and just had to take a deep breath and wait for about another 20 seconds before I had the confidence to actually speak my first words. But as a 20-year-old and doing your very first radio program, it was just it was just amazing.
And there was also a very famous T-boy who you had in your ranks for quite a while.
The Robster, bless him, yes. When he was 15, Robbie, as you know, of course, from Stoke, and he was doing work experience, and it was more with Phil Trow than with me. He was shadowing Phil Trow, but I was at that stage doing the afternoon show when Phil was doing evenings, and so Robbie would often say, "Oh, can I just sit in and blah blah blah." So the joke is that yes, he was my T-boy, but I remember, and this is the irony, there was one stage I was doing a roadshow with Robbie, and he was telling us, "Oh, I'm going to be in this new band. We're going to be Britain's answer to New Kids on the Block." And I said, "Oh, well, great. What's it called?" He said, "Well, we'll call Take That." And I went, "Oh, well, look, good luck. I hope it goes well." And then he'd got my autograph for his girlfriend, and heaven, no idea that young 15-year-old would end up being one of the world's biggest megastars.
That's brilliant.
And putting Stoke on the map. Good for him.
So after Signal Radio, obviously your career carried on going and still going now. Where did you go to straight after Signal?
After Signal, I went down south for a few years to a radio station called Chiltern Radio, which is like Luton, Dunstable, Bedfordshire, Milton Keynes, that type of area. I had a great time there. And then in 1993, moved to Newcastle, where I'm still based now. And I work for a radio station up here called Metro Radio, which had a phenomenal, still does, had a phenomenal audience and a phenomenal profile in its area. And on that station, I had people like George Michael, Elton John, Tom Jones, Cher, the Spice Girls, all the stars would come in for a chat. And just had a brilliant time. And I love the Northeast, so I'm still pretty much based here after 20-something years.
And still doing radio?
Well, sort of. I now have a company called In-Store Radio Productions.
Yes.
And we do background music for shops, stores, gyms, hotels. And so it is like doing radio programs because they're in shops. So the presenter links are going to be, "Hello, welcome to the store. Don't forget to take out a store card," and that sort of thing. So that's a business that we've been doing for about 15 years now.
Yeah, for the listeners at home who want to get into radio, we've sort of slightly covered it, how you started. Have you got any tips of how you can just get through that door initially?
I would say try and get in at the radio station doing work experience or voluntary work. Completely unpaid. Money should never be an issue. You just want to get in the environment. So if you can get hold of your program controller or their assistant and just say, look, I'm really keen on radio. I'm doing hospital radio, or I'm doing student radio, or I'm studying it at college or uni. I'd love to just come in for a week or even a day, or just offer your services for free. You might find that some stations will say, well, actually, we've got the summer coming up and we've got loads of road shows, and you could hand out stickers or leaflets. That's the first thing I would say, is try and get in just so that your face is known, your voice is known. Secondly, you do need the experience. So whether it is, as I say, student radio, hospital radio, or even like I did, I had a little radio station in my shed at home, and just pretending to be the latest Kenny Everett and Tony Blackburn, who are probably names you've never heard of, Terry, because you're so young.
Definitely have.
But yeah, that would be my advice. And then obviously you've got to get a demo tape together. Try and be individual. Most stations now are very formatted, so understand what their format is. If it's a heart, for instance, that's going to be quite middle of the road, aiming at your 40-year-old listener. If it's a capital, for instance, that's going to be aiming at a 15 to 25-year-old. So make sure you know the audience, make sure you know the station that you're aiming for. Try and fit into their style, but also be a bit different, be a bit unique, be a little quirky, or just something that will make you stand out from the other 200 demos that program controller has sent that week. And keep it short. 3 minutes is perfect.
Yeah, perfect advice there from somebody who's done it, from a 20-year-old working behind the scenes all the way through to now a 30-year-old still doing it.
No, I'm 29 and a half now.
Oh, I haven't quite reached 30. Me neither. I don't think you ever grow old on radio.
Of course you don't. Of course you don't.
Well, Lee Finan, it's been amazing talking to you. Like I say, for a lot of people around here in Stoke who are listening today, that voice will take them way back.
Oh my God! Well, it's been you brought some memories back to me, because first of all, the people of Staffordshire and Cheshire are just salt of the earth, and I had amazing times in the area and on the local radio station, as it was Signal Radio. So you brought back great memories for me, Terry, and I wish you guys, all of you, good luck for the future.
Thank you. And if you're ever around, you have to pop in for a brew. I'll get Robbie.
We'll come in for a brew. Absolutely. Get in there.
Take care.
Great to talk to you, Terry. Good luck, mate.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.